from Hunter Valley.
No problem at all.
She went to like a private school and basically.
Thank you. Spread around.
Everybody should be on the bandwagon to free Assange and watch on 60 Minutes on Sunday because they're going to do a special on Stella and Julian's wedding. Unfortunately, we won't be able to see Julian because Belmarsh, in all its wisdom, has decided that he's too much of a security risk. So, free Assange. He should not be in jail. He definitely should be in Belmarsh, and he should be out with Stella and his 2 boys. Cheers.
Yeah. But it looked like he was taking a video of
No,
it.
he said he wanted to take a photo of us. I thought for positive reasons, but it was like, you idiots. You're supporting a guy that
Yeah, I know what he said.
stole information from the Democrats.
Yeah.
No, he didn't. Somebody else stole the information and gave it to him.
Yeah, well, it was
And it was
an internal
obliged.
leak.
And he was obliged
Yeah,
to expose those.
that's right. That's his job. That's what journalists do.
Yeah.
That's right. So if the emails contained information against her, well, that was the information that she wrote on those emails. So you can't blame.
But look, you haven't got your information solely from the mainstream media.
You're right.
Julian Assange.
Free Julian, please! I'm so upset he's in prison. It's upsetting me. Please free Julian Assange.
Thank you.
So what's it about?
It's to do with Greece's independence. Because it was, I think Turkey occupied Greece for 400 years.
Uh-huh. And is it Independence Day or something? Well, we're all into sovereignty. Go for it.
Did he? It was a great week for Julian and Stella, in as much as they were able to get married while Julian's incarcerated in Belmarsh, held for no apparent reason. And it's great to have these occasional victories or moments of joy, because obviously life has become very difficult for Julian and Stella recently, or over the course of the last few years, as Julian's been put behind bars. So we take solace in those moments that we get, and it was great to see. Stella looked amazing, and unfortunately we couldn't see any photos of Julian, but it was a moment of joy in a pretty dark time, not just for Julian but for a lot of the world at the moment, as we face the unlikely but possible prospect of nuclear war over Ukraine. And I'm sure that everyone who supports Julian Assange would support peace in that region and around the world, in the various conflict areas. And it's I think that when you learn from people like Julian, one thing I've learned, one of the most important lessons I've learned from Julian, and from people like Julian who publish original source documents and process a broad range of information in their publications, is that these conflicts that we see, they're not inevitable, they're not accidents, they don't just occur in almost all cases. What they are is that they are the natural consequence of the policies that are enacted by our governments around the world. And our governments around the world are more or less led or influenced or controlled by very powerful corporations and powerful individuals. Chamath Palihapitiya, one of the ex senior members of Facebook, he was one of the people who put Facebook on a path of enormous growth, and was very successful as a result of that. Now he's an entrepreneur and businessman. He says that 150 people or so rule the world. Maybe less, it may be more, but I think that when you understand that capital pools, money pools over time, then I'm sure it's not really very hard to understand that there are a relatively small number of people who have enormous wealth, networks, control over our economies and over our policies. And unfortunately these conflicts arise, in my opinion, directly out of that, because these people are not willing to make concessions, they're not willing to bring about, or they're not willing to put in place policies that result in people feeling comfortable enough to pursue a peaceful course of action. And that's not to absolve the Vladimir Putin of any responsibility, that's to recognize that the conditions for peace were not put in place by the very powerful people who run enormous corporations, who have control over resources and over human resources and over information and over policy. And so it's a collective failure on our part as citizens to vote for these parties that keep the status quo in place, and for us not to hold them to account when they fail to create a situation in which peace can prevail. And that's why we need Julian. We need Julian to be free and to publish the truth and to inform and continue informing the public about the things that are going on, the things that very powerful people are doing to increase their wealth marginally at the risk of Ukrainian lives and Russian lives, and in fact lives of people throughout Europe whose energy prices are now are skyrocketing, and there will be people who die as a result of that too. So it's imperative at a time like this. We need truth more than ever, and we need Julian Assange to be free now more than ever.
I'd like to congratulate Julian Assange and his love, Stella Morris, on their wedding, which occurred this week. Stella looked stunning in her Vivienne Westwood gown. The kilt designed by Vivienne was worn by Julian and their young boys. His father John said it is a Wallace tartan, William Wallace tartan, another man who stood up to the powers that be. He too was not of the right class. They would consider Julian an upstart from the colonies, not of the right class, like the men from The Guardian who worked with Julian and studied at Oxford and Cambridge. It was a bittersweet day for Julian and Stella. Julian should be free to wed amongst his family and friends. His choice of witness, Craig Murray, was denied, as Craig is a journalist. It seems the powers that be are terrified of accurate and honest facts being revealed by journalists. Even the gentle and loving occasion of a wedding. Those who live in the dark and have darkness in their hearts don't like the light of the truth to enter. Journalists are being silenced and stopped from doing their jobs worldwide. Without journalists showing us the genuine truth, we have no democracy. Without accountability of the powerful, we have no democracy. We've had some great journalists that uncovered stories like the abuse of children in the Northern Territory, ABC's Revelations, showing the abuse of children in the Catholic Church, or the Afghan files that were leaked by David McBride. However, many of the great investigative journalists cannot work in their chosen field. Many of the great journalists have been silenced. They see what is happening to Julian Assange, a multi-award-winning journalist. He faces 175 years in prison for doing his job. That is, to uncover and publish crimes and corruption of the powerful, not only in the US, but all over the world. If extradited, he faces death in a prison described in his court case as being a fate worse than death. Why should he face any repercussions for telling the truth? Why should he be sent to a foreign country that planned his kidnap and murder, that spoke of a shootout in the streets of London, where nearby shoppers at Harrods could be injured? Courage is not something we speak much of these days. We think of the Anzacs and the brave men and women who went before us, who faced untold hardships, people who remained stoic and brave. Julian Assange knew when he went up against the most powerful and corrupt people on earth, there would be no hiding. He said they would hunt him to the ends of the earth, but he did it anyway. He was courageous. He knew what he was doing was right. To put a foreign superpower ahead of our own citizen is wrong. We have an obligation to the young people that we leave this world to. We cannot allow this to happen. To remain silent on this issue is un-Australian. Julian is a political prisoner, and we need people to make this an election issue. Please call your local member. Call Maurice Payne, Scott Morrison, Penny Wong and Albanese and tell them we are not happy. They need to show some backbone and call out this travesty. Don't lie down and allow the US government and agencies to take their vindictive revenge against a good man. A man who hoped to uncover their wrongdoings and stop the unnecessary death of millions, to stop the few being made rich from the blood of many. Free inmate, our mate, Julian Assange.
Welcome to the 122nd week of Julian Assange Sydney Town Hall gatherings. Congratulations to Julian and his wife Stella, who were married within the confines of Belmarsh Prison on Wednesday the 23rd of this week. Julian Assange is a journalist who published leaked information revealing the crimes by governments and corporations around the world. The US government is seeking Julian's extradition so that he can be made to face fictional charges of espionage and computer intrusion. The available evidence clearly shows that Julian is completely innocent of everything the US government has thrown at him. But that isn't stopping our corrupt governments and media from being complicit in his persecution. The damages caused through the charges brought against Julian are immeasurable, but the underlying corruption must also be acknowledged if we are going to achieve anything worthwhile. We need to guarantee Julian is safe, well, and back in charge of WikiLeaks. But unless we can bring the criminals he exposed, along with those who have tortured him, to face justice, we are wasting our time. If criminals remain in control of governments and mainstream narratives, any perceived success will be meaningless. We will be most effective if we continue to build on the work of Julian to bring about true understanding within our communities. We must do everything we can to accurately inform the public. This is not a game. This is reality. Everyone needs to realise that established power relies on manipulating people. Those who pull strings manipulate their puppets through lies, inducements, and blackmail. Those who are good at this move up their hierarchies. Journalists like Julian, who make trouble for established power, are demonised, attacked, and persecuted. In fighting this corrupt system, we must make sure we do not participate as puppets of manipulation. We must be conscious of the lies of mainstream propaganda and be able to ignore and work around it. We must work to create the world we want to be part of. We must create unity amongst ourselves through honest and truthful interactions. It is necessary for us to create and participate in a parallel society which is honest and transparent. We must never believe anything that isn't backed up by reliable evidence. We must always be open to looking at available evidence to guide us in our decision making. We need to be immune to the manipulations of the lying media. We need to keep our minds free. While we are free in our minds, we are winning. As soon as we take the position that we are potentially being lied to by governments and media, we realise our need for evidence. Julian Assange published 100% authentic evidence, and much of it. His persecution for his principal role in exposing evidence of crimes against humanity must be resisted by all decent people. Those who have control over the majority of people are working for ever greater control. They don't want ordinary people to wake up and are currently putting in digital systems of complete control. The only force that can prevent their success is our unity. We must develop unity, but this requires us having free and open minds. The coming federal election will be a test of our unity. In Australia, we must make sure we use our preferential voting system to maximum effect. We need to place the mainstream parties last on our ballot papers. That's the Labor, Liberal, National and Greens parties. The mainstream parties have all spectacularly failed to act for Julian since his arbitrary detention was commenced more than 11 years ago. On the 7th of December 2010, we must use this coming election as an opportunity to punish the mainstream parties appropriately. Place them last preferences on your voting paper, please. And we need to free Julian Assange. Free Julian Assange. Free Julian Assange.
Free Julian.
Oh yeah, thanks.
We are all Assange.